Welcome to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. This is Chris Miller. I invite you to join me as I interview artists from a variety of disciplines. We'll share powerful stories and lessons learned while making their art. Good day, spiritual artists. This is CJ Miller, the host of the Spiritual Artist Podcast, and I wanted to check in with you this week. I have been very busy putting together my solo show that will open on September 6th in Richardson, Texas. And so I haven't had the chance to do many interviews or keep up with my podcast, so I want to send a little apology. And in that freneticness, kind of share a lesson, a spiritual lesson that I had yesterday, something that I wanted to that I needed to hear again, and that I also wanted to share with you. So, as you know, I do yoga with Lisa Coyle. She has been on several of my podcasts. I encourage you to listen to them. And I do a thing called yin yoga, and that is a practice of really, it's a heightened practice. You're not really sleeping, but you're resting your mind. And she, of course, said something during the process as she walked us through this journey that reminded me of something very important. And that is the fact that I have been struggling and running around and taking care of all the physical manifestations I need to do, everything physical to make this show happen, including signage and flyers and putting hooks on my art and finishing the last paintings. But I haven't been giving the proper amount of attention to my spiritual side. We're all guilty of that. We move and move and move, and we go so quick that we don't take the time to connect with our spiritual truth, the essence. And so, what yin yoga does is it gives you a chance to quiet your mind and put your thoughts down. And Lisa said something. She quoted a yoga master, and he has this wonderful phrase: it's not a matter of knowing who you are, it's a matter of knowing who you aren't. Let me say that again. It's not a matter of knowing who you are. It's a matter of knowing who you aren't. What Lisa was explaining is that when we do this practice, when we let our bodies calm down, we let our minds calm down, we let our emotions calm down, we erase, we take away all the things that are false truths. False truths. These false identifications we have as ego, that I have to get hooks, for example, on paintings, all those things, we put them out of the way and we just spend time being. So this wonderful practice of letting all those other things fall away is something I encourage you to do today. As you get up and open this beautiful weekend, I want you to take a few moments, 15 minutes at least, to try this practice of letting everything fall away. Now, what's so interesting is that meditation is often hard for people because we're asked not to think about things. And I've always struggled with that because it's hard for me not to think about things. And so what I do is I do a different form of meditation, is I focus on the memory of things or the things around me or the sound of nature around me. And I use that memory to ground myself and calm myself. So in my book, I talk about moments of awe. And those are moments where we sit back and we look at the great experience of life and we're in awe of it. We're in awe of it. So what I'd like you to do right now is I'm going to ask you to do a little exercise, and I'm going to ask you to remember a moment of awe. For example, I have several that I pull back and reflect on. One of them I talk about in my book is one day driving home from a meal at my parents' house. It was a beautiful fall day, and I was driving down a highway in Dallas, and there were all these sunflowers lining the road. Tons of them, a field of sunflowers. And the sky was a beautiful color of blue. The sun was setting, and the wind was blowing gently, and a beautiful song was on the radio, and the window was cracked, and those sunflowers were all nodding, and they were so gorgeous. They were so gorgeous that I thought wow. And I felt what I call a connection to intelligence of being. I felt my connection to all that is. And I call this all that is. There is an intelligence of being in everything. And looking at those sunflowers was when I reflected on it. Here's a totally different scenario. Another example for me of a moment of awe where I reflect on the beauty of life, the intelligence of God, spirit around me. When I was a kid, we had some woods behind us. They were undeveloped woods between two suburban neighborhoods, and we had to walk through those woods to get over to my friend's house and back again. And they were pretty nice woods, and there was a path worn through those woods to get to the other neighborhood. And so we would often go through that path, but the woods were old story woods, and they were so beautiful. These tall trees growing so close but so high. There was this beautiful canopy above us, and there was this gorgeous undergrowth. There were fern and flowers and little small seedlings. And this is what's really interesting. There were these violets. I don't know if you've ever experienced wild violets. They grow randomly, and there's carpets of them in these woods. And as a child, I remember that if I was particularly unhappy or stressed out, I would run up to those woods and I would sit down in that field of violets, that beautiful field of violets. It was me, and the best I can think of it is it was me connecting with intelligence of being, connecting with all that is, connecting with this greater power. And how we do that is we turn off our mind, we calm our emotions, we feel our body. Does that sound familiar? It does, because that's what you do with yin yoga. You turn off your mind, you feel, you're present to all of your body at one time, and you feel the emotions, but it's a motion of peace and calm. And when you're in there, when you're in that place, you receive from God, you receive from Spirit most clearly. I'll tell you this again, we always are hearing messages from God. God is always directing us. I call it this intelligence of being. This creative intelligence is always communicating to us, but we hear it best when we put ourselves in that state, that moment of presence. And we put ourselves in that moment of presence by reflecting on a moment of awe. So I want you to take a minute right now, and I want you to think in your life, can you remember a situation, a place, a being, a favorite vacation, somewhere where you were in an environment? Can you remember it and record it and save that recording in your mind? Save that recording. And I'll tell you why. Once you save that recording, think back about this favorite memory. Can you see it? What does it look like? What does it look like? Maybe take a piece of paper and write this down so it helps you remember. What does it look like? Was the wind blowing? Were you inside? Were you outside? Was it involving nature, or was it something else, a relationship with a person? Can you taste what it tasted like? I want you to create through all of your senses what that experience felt like. For example, when I sat in those woods, I felt the coolness of the dark woods. I smelled the green leaves, the rotting, decomposing leaves on the ground, that moist, musky smell. I can smell it right now. I saw this beautiful purple color on these flower heads. I feel the pine bark and the mulch underneath me. I'm not sure if I have a taste sensation for it, but I guess you could say you could taste the coolness on the air. You know, that air that you have in the woods. So I want you to write down all those senses about this memory of yours. What did it feel like? What did you see? How did you touch it? How did you hear it? Did it have a sound? Write that down. What's so great about recording a moment of presence or recording a moment of awe is that you can pull that back whenever you need it. And you will. You will need it. Life is challenging. So I'm telling you to store up your archives of positive memories. Create a positive memory and store it and go back as a touch point and remember it. One time, I had to have a root canal done, and it was very painful. If you've ever had a root canal, you'll know how painful it is to have a root canal, especially if it starts hurting and you're not close to a dentist's office. So I had to go to the dentist's office, and they're drilling through, and it was so painful. What I do is I project my mind into that moment of awe. I project myself into that moment of awe. So I can't say that it took away all the pain of the root canal, but it makes it better. It brings me peace. It brings the center of me to a calm place. So I want you to practice that this day. I want you to write down a memory of awe that you can go back to and bring yourself back to this wonderful creation, this wonderful place of peace. That is how you can process through life if you have a cold or you're sick in bed or if something's going wrong in your life or you're sitting in traffic or if you're stressed out about a test or an exam. You can recall that memory and bring yourself back to that connection of peace. And so when we do this, all the other things fall away, all the other false truths that we think we are, whether it's paying bills, whether it's obligations that we think we have, whether it's making something happen. We just connect with spirit. That's how you connect with spirit and give it to spirit to make it happen. And so as I laid there on the floor in my yoga studio last night, I thought, oh, isn't it funny how the minute I sit back and I connect to spirit, all of a sudden creativity just pops into my head. Ideas started popping into my head, ideas for my next book, ideas for what I needed to do for the show. And you got to be careful about that because you don't want to get into a to-do list. You really want to be present. So I pushed them aside and I said, not now, not now. I'm in this moment of presence. So I ask you to take a moment of presence today. I ask you to take a moment of presence today and record a memory, a sensation, a moment of awe in your life. So I'm going to give you a little spiritual declaration to help you ground yourself for this day. So I want you to get a piece of paper, put it next to you, and follow me on this spiritual declaration. So take a deep breath and close your eyes. Take a deep breath and close your eyes. And I want you to think back. You're going within. All the noises around you, do not pay attention to the noises in the room, to the room around you, to the people around you. You are within. You're in that center space of who you are. I want you to put your consciousness right there in your heart space. So I want you to project your mind's eye, your consciousness in the heart space, and just focus on that for a minute. Focus on the strength of that heart space and take a deep breath in, count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and let it out. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now I want you to go back in your mind's eye and think about your life and think about just one. There might be several that come to mind, but pick one of your favorite moments of awe. What was it? What were you doing? Where were you? How did it feel? How did it feel? And I want you to sit there and think about it. What did it look like? What did it feel like? How did your body feel? What was the texture of it? What did you see? What did you feel? What did you hear? Were there sounds associated with it? Were there sounds associated with it? Did it have a taste? Were you drinking something or eating something, or was it just the taste of the wind? Did it have a taste? And did it have a smell? Can you smell that memory? I want you to relive that memory. I want you to be there right now, and I want you to feel it, see it, taste it, all that you can to remember it. Oh, remember that? Do you remember that feeling of all is well? That is when you are connected to your beingness. That is when you are connected to one power, to creative intelligence, to all that is. And it is glorious. There's nothing to do, nothing to achieve, nothing to score, make happen, force, clean, or fix. Just feel that moment of awe. Just feel the moment of awe. And I want you to remember this. Remember that there is nothing you have to make happen, that there is an intelligence of being all around you and within you, and it is guiding you to the right and perfect place. And your creative DNA, as you release it and express it, and you let out that creative aspect of who you are, whatever it is, whether it's artwork or public speaking or running a business, know as you let it out, it will lead you to the right and perfect fulfillment for who you are because you're listening to the intelligence within. And so as you sit here in this calm place, know that it's all taken care of. There's a happening to it, an orchestration to it, a blueprint to it that will all happen in perfect order. All happen in perfect order. So just sit here for a moment, and I'm going to give you a moment of silence, and then I'm going to come back, and we're going to come back. So just take one deep breath in and sit. Um, okay, here you are. You're back with me. It was a great moment of silence, a great place of being. I want you to go out there and live the next weeks, the next year in perfect harmony, knowing that everything is all in perfect order. And I want to thank you for listening to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. Thank you for noticing the moments of awe in your life and using them to help you get through stressful times. Thank you for listening to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. Follow me. Go up there and like this on your podcast player. Share this with someone that you know that might need a little bit of presence today. Share it with them. Share the love. Talk to you soon and have a great day. Thanks again for listening to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. Whether you're watching this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or iHeartRadio, make sure you choose the subscribe button so that you will receive updates when new segments are released. Most importantly, be still, listen, and know that you are a spiritual artist.